Cleopatra's final days were not romantic. They were not a beautiful queen calmly choosing a poetic death while Rome watched from far away. They were 10 days of pressure, isolation, surveillance, threats against her children, and psychological war. That is the horror. Octavian did not only want Cleopatra defeated, she was already defeated. He did not only want Egypt. Egypt was already falling into Roman hands. He wanted something more useful than victory. He wanted Cleopatra alive, broken, humiliated, and paraded through Rome as proof that he had saved the Roman world from a dangerous foreign queen. Cleopatra understood exactly what that meant. A Roman triumph was not just a parade. It was public domination. A defeated ruler could be dragged through the streets, displayed before the crowd, mocked as a trophy, and turned into a living lesson. Rome did not only defeat enemies, Rome staged them. And Octavian wanted Cleopatra to become the final scene of his victory. So when she was captured in Alexandria in August 30 BC, his first order was not simply to kill her, it was to keep her alive, guard her chamber, remove anything dangerous, separate her from her attendants, control what she hears, control who she sees, control her children, control her fear. For 10 days, Cleopatra was trapped between two unbearable choices. If she lived, Rome could parade her. If she died, her children might suffer. Octavian used that impossible choice like a weapon. That is what this story is about. Not the snake, not the legend, not the paintings, but the systematic destruction of a queen's agency before Rome rewrote her into the image it wanted the world to remember. If you are drawn to the darker corners of history, subscribe to Grimmer History and help us reach 45,000 subscribers. Every story here is built to uncover the past with atmosphere, tension, and respect for the lives history tried to bury. Tonight, we enter Alexandria after the city had fallen. The last pharaoh of Egypt is locked inside a guarded room, and Rome is trying to decide whether she will die as a queen or live as a trophy. The destruction began in Alexandria. It was August 30 BC, and the old world of the Ptolemies was collapsing. Cleopatra had ruled Egypt for more than 2 decades. She was not simply a seductress from Roman propaganda. She was a monarch, a diplomat, a strategist, a mother, and one of the most politically intelligent rulers of her age. She spoke multiple languages. She understood Rome. She had negotiated with Julius Caesar. She had built an alliance with Mark Antony. She had kept Egypt independent far longer than Octavian wanted. But by the summer of 30 BC, everything had turned against her. Antony and Cleopatra had lost their great struggle against Octavian. Their power had broken after Actium. Their allies had faded. Their soldiers had lost confidence. Alexandria, the shining capital of Egypt, was surrounded by Roman victory. Mark Antony was dying. Ancient sources preserve the scene in different ways, but the emotional truth is clear. Antony believed Cleopatra was already dead. In despair, he chose not to be taken by Octavian. Then word reached him that Cleopatra was still alive, barricaded in a tomb or mausoleum she had prepared as a final refuge. She had locked herself inside with loyal attendants and treasure. That tomb was not just a grave. It was her last fortress. The building stood as a final statement. If Rome took the palace, Cleopatra would still control the image of her end. She gathered wealth, symbols, and royal dignity around herself, because she knew that defeat was not only about armies. Defeat was also about presentation. Antony was brought to her. Later writers say he was lifted into the tomb through an upper opening because the doors could not safely be opened. Whether every detail is exact or shaped by drama, the meaning is unmistakable. Cleopatra was trapped inside her own monument, holding the ruins of her life in her hands. Antony died near her. With his death, Cleopatra lost more than a lover. She lost her Roman shield. She lost the last powerful ally who could stand between her children and Octavian. She lost the political future they had tried to build together, and she had almost no time to grieve. Octavian's men were coming, but Octavian did not simply storm the tomb. That is important. He wanted her alive. He sent messengers. He offered conversation. He opened the door to negotiation, because negotiation kept her breathing. Cleopatra demanded guarantees for her children. That was her first priority. Even in defeat, She was still bargaining as a mother. But while she spoke, Rome moved. Ancient accounts describe Roman officers gaining entry by surprise, reaching her before she could fully control the situation. When Cleopatra realized she had been captured, she understood the truth immediately. Octavian would not allow her to choose freely. He needed her body alive for Rome. She was taken from the tomb and placed under guard. Her world shrank from a kingdom to a chamber. One door, watched walls, limited movement, controlled visitors, guards outside. No private freedom, no real power. This was the beginning of the true horror. Not the fall of Alexandria, not the death of Antony, not even the loss of Egypt. The true horror began when Cleopatra realized that Rome did not want only to defeat her. Rome wanted to use her. Octavian had a problem. He had won a civil war. That was dangerous. Romans had fought Romans. Roman blood had been spilled by Roman hands. Antony had not been a foreign invader. He had been a Roman general, a former ally, a member of Rome's ruling world. Octavian needed to make that uncomfortable truth disappear, so he needed Cleopatra. He needed Rome to believe that the war had not been ambition against ambition. He needed it to become Rome against Egypt, West against East, discipline against corruption, Roman virtue against a dangerous queen. This is how propaganda works. It simplifies what is complicated until the crowd knows exactly whom to hate. Cleopatra was not simple. That was the problem. She was educated. She was politically skilled. She had lived among Romans. She understood their language, their ambitions, their weaknesses, and their pride. She was not the foolish foreign temptress Octavian wanted Rome to imagine. So he had to turn her into one. Alive in a Roman triumph, Cleopatra would be perfect propaganda. Imagine the scene Octavian wanted. The streets of Rome crowded with citizens, spoils from Egypt displayed before them, gold, statues, royal treasures, maps, banners, images of conquest. Then Cleopatra herself, the last queen of Egypt, shown to the Roman people as defeated, humiliated, and powerless. No speech would be needed. Her presence would say everything. This is the woman who corrupted Antony. This is the queen who threatened Rome. This is Egypt, conquered. This is why Octavian had to win. Cleopatra understood that formula because she knew Rome. She knew what happened to defeated rulers. A triumph was not just a celebration. It was a ritualized destruction of identity. A king or queen who once ruled nations became a prop in someone else's victory. Their body became evidence. Their shame became public entertainment. Their silence became the conqueror's message. Cleopatra would rather die than give Octavian that image. Octavian knew that too. So he built a trap around the one thing stronger than her fear of humiliation: her children. Cleopatra had 4 children. Caesarion, her son by Julius Caesar, was the most politically dangerous. He was not simply Cleopatra's son, he was Caesar's biological son. Octavian's power depended heavily on being Caesar's adopted heir. Caesarion's existence was a threat because blood could become a banner. Even a young man without an army could become dangerous if others decided to rally around his name. The younger children were Antony's, Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene, and Ptolemy Philadelphus. They were still children, but they too had value to Rome. They could be hostages. They could be displayed. They could be raised under Roman supervision. They could be turned into living proof that Cleopatra's dynasty had been absorbed. To Cleopatra, they were her children. To Octavian, they were tools. This was the trap. He did not need to convince Cleopatra that Rome was kind. He only needed to make her believe that cooperation might keep her children alive. Messages reached her. Your children are safe. Their future depends on you. Caesarion's position is delicate. Do not force Caesar's hand. Every word was pressure. Every promise had a hook inside it. Cleopatra wanted to deny Octavian the triumph. Her dignity demanded refusal, but her children demanded survival. Octavian forced those 2 instincts to fight inside her. That was the cruelty. He did not only imprison her body, he imprisoned her motherhood. The chamber became a battlefield without swords. Cleopatra was guarded carefully. Ancient sources suggest that Roman officers watched her closely because Octavian feared she would deny him his prize. Her clothing and surroundings were controlled. Dangerous objects were removed. Visitors were limited. Her attendants were watched. Information was filtered through Roman hands. She was not treated like a queen. She was treated like a valuable captive whose death would ruin the show. This is where the horror becomes very clear. Octavian did not simply want Cleopatra alive. He wanted her to accept life on his terms. That meant he had to break her desire to refuse him. So he used two pressures at once. First, he forced her to imagine the humiliation awaiting her in Rome. Second, he kept her children in front of her mind. One pressure pulled her toward death. The other pulled her toward survival. This is how a person is broken without chains. A room, a guard, a threat, a promise, a child's name, a future you cannot verify, a fear you cannot escape, a hope you cannot afford to abandon. The uploaded story describes Roman preparations for Cleopatra's public display, measurements, planning, discussion of presentation, and the idea that she would be arranged as part of the triumph. Whether every detail survives with certainty or belongs to later dramatic reconstruction, the psychological truth is powerful. Cleopatra knew Rome wanted to turn her body into a public object. She knew they would not present her as she understood herself, not as ruler of Egypt, not as mother, not as political partner of Antony, not as a monarch fighting to preserve independence. They would present her as Rome's enemy, Rome's temptation, Rome's defeated woman. The triumph would erase her complexity in front of thousands. That was why it was so terrifying. Death ends a life. Humiliation in a triumph tries to rewrite that life before it ends. Cleopatra may have been isolated, but she was not ignorant. She understood that Octavian's mercy had limits. She understood that Caesarion was in danger, no matter what promises were made. She understood that Rome could keep her younger children alive and still destroy their future. She understood that cooperation did not mean freedom, but she was a mother. Hope can survive, even when reason knows better. This was Octavian's advantage. He could tell her that Caesarion needed her alive. He could imply that the younger children would be protected. He could make surrender sound like sacrifice. He could make humiliation look like the price of motherhood. That is what made the trap so cruel. If Cleopatra refused, she could be accused of abandoning her children. If she submitted, she would become Octavian's living trophy. There was no clean path, only different kinds of loss. At some point, the pressure changed. The sources do not let us see the exact moment. Maybe Cleopatra overheard something. Maybe a loyal servant warned her. Maybe she simply understood Octavian too well. But she appears to have realized the truth that had been hiding beneath every promise. Caesarion could not be safe. Octavian could not allow him to live as Caesar's son. That realization destroyed the bargain. If cooperation could not save Caesarion, then the triumph offered nothing except humiliation. If Rome would take Egypt, kill the political threat, control the younger children, and rewrite Cleopatra's memory anyway, then submission was not sacrifice. It was surrender to a lie. And Cleopatra had one choice left, not how to save Egypt. That was gone. Not how to save Antony. He was gone. Not how to save Caesarion with certainty. That was likely beyond her reach. The only choice left was whether Octavian would parade her alive. Cleopatra's final hours have been buried beneath legend. The famous story says a snake was hidden in a basket of figs. It is dramatic, symbolic, and unforgettable. It connects Cleopatra to Egyptian royalty, danger, and mystery. It gave artists and poets exactly the image they wanted. But ancient writers themselves disagreed about the details. Some doubted the snake story. Others repeated it. Some suggested poison. Some admitted uncertainty. The truth is that we do not know the exact method with certainty, and we should not pretend otherwise. What matters is not the method. What matters is the meaning. Cleopatra arranged her final image before Rome could arrange it for her. She would not be found broken in chains. She would not be dragged alive into the Roman triumph. She would not stand before the crowd while Octavian turned her into the symbol he needed. She prepared herself as queen, royal dress, dignity, stillness, control. Her attendants, Iras and Charmian, remained close in the ancient tradition. Whether the exact scene has been shaped by Roman storytelling or not, its meaning survived because it was powerful. The last queen of Egypt was found beyond Octavian's reach, surrounded not by Roman spectacle, but by the final signs of her own royal identity. Octavian had failed to capture the one thing he wanted most, her living humiliation. But Rome was not finished. This is the final cruelty of the story. Cleopatra denied Octavian her living body, so Octavian paraded her image instead. During his triumph in Rome, a representation of Cleopatra was displayed. The people still saw her defeated. They still saw the story Octavian wanted them to remember. She was no longer present to resist. She could not speak. She could not correct the image. She could not explain Egypt, Antony, Caesarion, or the impossible trap she had been forced into. Rome controlled the narrative, and the narrative survived. For 2,000 years, many remembered Cleopatra not primarily as a ruler, but as a seductress, not as a strategist, but as a danger, not as a woman caught in the machinery of Roman power, but as a myth with a snake. That was Octavian's victory. He lost the living trophy, but he won the story. Then came the children. Caesarion was killed soon after. The boy Cleopatra had tried to protect, the son of Julius Caesar, was too dangerous to be allowed into the future. Ancient tradition preserves the cold logic. There was room for only one Caesar's heir in Octavian's world. The younger children survived, but not as heirs to Egypt. They were taken to Rome, displayed in the triumphal aftermath, and raised under Roman control. They lived, but the dynasty did not. Egypt became a Roman possession. Cleopatra's bloodline was neutralized. Her kingdom was absorbed. So what did her final refusal save? Not Egypt, not Antony, not Caesarion, not the public story Rome told about her. It saved only one thing, the final choice over her own body. And sometimes history leaves a person with nothing larger than that. Cleopatra's final days were far more horrific than history admits, because the real horror was not the famous ending. It was the 10 days before it. The guarded room, the separated children, the promises designed to manipulate her, the threatened triumph, the use of motherhood as a weapon, the attempt to make humiliation look like sacrifice. Octavian did not only defeat Cleopatra, he tried to make her participate in the meaning of her own defeat. That is the darkest part. He wanted her alive, so Rome could watch her fall. He wanted her visible, so his civil war could become a foreign victory. He wanted her body in the streets, so propaganda could become memory. Cleopatra saw the trap clearly. She knew Rome had taken her kingdom. She knew Antony was gone. She knew Caesarion was in danger. She knew her younger children would grow up under Roman power. She knew that even if she denied Octavian the triumph, he might still control the story. And he did. That is why this ending is not simple. It is not a clean victory. It is not only a defeat, it is something darker, one last act of agency inside a conquest so complete that even memory could not fully escape. Stand in Alexandria today, and the world of Cleopatra's final days is mostly gone. The palace quarter is lost beneath water and time. The tomb has not been found. The sealed chamber is gone. The guards are gone. The voices are gone. But the question remains, what does power do when killing an enemy is not enough? It isolates, it pressures, it threatens the people they love. It controls what they hear. It controls what the public sees. It turns humiliation into politics. And if the enemy refuses to perform the role assigned to them, power builds an image and parades that instead. That is what Rome did to Cleopatra. It failed to parade her alive, but it paraded her legend. It killed Caesarion. It took her children. It took Egypt. It turned her into a symbol that served Roman victory for centuries. And still, beneath all that propaganda, one truth remains. In the last room Rome gave her, Cleopatra made one decision Octavian could not command. Not enough to save her world, not enough to stop Rome, not enough to protect her name from distortion, but enough to deny him the living spectacle he wanted. That is what her final days were. Not romance, not legend, not the simple story of a snake in a basket. They were a psychological siege against the last pharaoh of Egypt, and her final refusal was the only wall Rome could not break.